Welcome, everybody, to Disturbing the Priest. Today, it's a very
I like
special
that name.
episode. Thank you. I am joined by my co host here, Carcass John. And
Hey,
today we are joined by the very vampiric James Rivera. Thank you so much for being up during the day to join us on the podcast.
Yes. Yeah, I have special sunscreen right now from the old home and it says only works for 30 minutes though.
That's
oh
awesome.
James,
Yeah.
you're still you always have a good sense of humor. Ever since I remember the first time we kind of met and hung out, and you've always got that little sharp wit like your fangs.
Well, you know what? Everybody says I should have, they said Larry says I missed my calling. He says, I don't know why you didn't do stand up. You probably would have made it bigger. I'm like, well, it's not too late. There's plenty
Well,
of
they
funny
get a little of
stories.
that when they get a little of that when they see Hellstar. So,
Yeah, I
or any of
throw
the
it in there
other
once in a blue
million
moon.
bands that I'm sure we'll talk about today. But anyway.
Yeah, there's no like vampire stand-up comedian, so you'd be the
That would be
first.
different, right?
It's at
Yeah, I could
night. It
talk about
happens at night also. So
Yeah, I could talk about the funny stories of how now I don't no longer wait in parking lots of McDonald's and Jack in the Box and places like that. I only eat Whole Foods because all that processed food made me fart so bad that I couldn't even stand it in my own coffin. Ah, God damn it.
what's the deal with blood drives? There's a
Yeah,
lot.
you get a lot of alcoholics. I ended up drunk, and then I got a D what do you call it a DFI, flying under the influence. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, The Devil's Masquerade. It's been out for some time now.
Yes,
A fairly recent
finally
record from
September. Yeah.
Helstar, and I'd love for you to kind of reflect on it. What have you seen any fan reception about this record? How do you feel about it now that it's been out, for a little bit?
You know, for the first time, we have never seen any bad reception about this record at all. It's all been positive. It's just been like 9 out of 10s, 10 out of 10s, and I don't know what it was, but it's something about this record. It just I think it was what everybody was hoping to have years ago. Like if this would have came out after Nosferatu, or maybe if Vampira would have came out after Nosferatu and this followed, it would have I think we'd have been at a different level by now. But I think the reason why it's a very strong record is because primarily 95% of it went back to Berrigan Rivera collaboration and no other influences whatsoever. And I think that is the magic of the whole thing. And we both just agreed. That's it. We're going to be the only writers. I don't care who comes in this band. We we'll listen to ideas, but at the end of the day, it just makes it easier because we know what to expect from each other and we know what the fans want. And we know what makes us happy. And we know what's going to make a great Hellstar record because we've done it for 40 something years. And I think that's basically what it comes down to.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Now you mentioned it a little bit, but I'd love for you to kind of elaborate on like your approach to songwriting with this record. Like what exactly did you do differently compared to like other releases?
Um, well, not much different. It was the fact that and unfortunately, when we lost Andrew, we were kind of forced to uh, speed up the process because he had almost shoot a lot of songs written, and he started taking over the reins of like a lot of the lyrics and melody ideas, which they weren't bad, and I'm never against them, but when he left, then he said, "Oh, you can keep my stuff," and we didn't. We've been, a lot of bands have been down that road. I mean, Megadeth and Metallica is a big example. Yeah, take my stuff. It's okay. Then later on, hey, you fuckers, you took my song. And so yeah, and so basically, we just didn't want to face that. And Larry said, man, thanks, but no thanks. And then he said, so what do we do, James? I said, well, Let's take the bull by the horns, brother. And he goes, well, I've got shit. And I said, well, I've got shit. And so we just started writing immediately and we just started feeling it. I mean, immediately, the first song he sent me, not even 20 minutes later, on a voice memo, I was playing the song on the background in the computer and I was singing a melody and already had came up with just like a verse. And I go, what do you think about that? He goes, dude. He goes, you just came up with that? I go, yep. I go, that's the magic of Barrigan and Rivera, you know? It's not like we have to think too much, although we're not being cheesy and going, oh, let's just write a bunch of songs in 30 minutes and be AC/DC. No, and we still put a lot of thought into it. It's just the chemistry between me and him. It's a magical thing we can't explain.
Well, do you have a long history with Larry? I mean, Larry's been there since day one, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, me and
So,
him, day one.
so when you're writing, do you ever? I mean, knowing that, I mean, all the guys in your band have always been really, really good.
Oh
I mean, they've
yes.
always been good at every position. Um, but do you ever have to write and like saying, well, if we do this live, we sort of have to accommodate this style or this inadequacy or their limits or whatever, or do you just write and hope that everyone can jump on the bandwagon and do it just like the record?
Yeah, we don't think about, well, we better write it. We better tone it down a little bit because I may not be able to hit that note live, or well, I may not be able to do that solo. What about that drum part? You think Mikey's going to pull that off live? No, we don't think that way at all. But I think everything that we write already in a natural vibe of thinking live anyways. We when we record, I like to think live. I pretend there's an audience. Because it gives me more energy. I've been tempted to go to J.C. Penney and borrow some mannequins and go, hey, I need to put these in the room while I record. Put some leather jackets on them, yeah, and have little bite marks on their neck. Yeah, it'll inspire the hell out of me.
Yeah, yeah. How do you reflect on it was, I believe, 9 years between the last two releases? How do you reflect on that time gap?
Well, it's the reason why it took so long was because well, number one, Vampira was a very strong record, and every time we do a record, we get nervous when it comes time to start thinking about the next record. And then you go and you listen to, we both went back and listened to Vampiro, and I'm going, man, I'm a little worried, dude. I don't know how we're gonna top this or at least match it. And so we always have that in the back of our heads. So I think that for a while we go through this stage. I know I do, and I think Larry does too. So we got so much in common. You'd think that we were married in our past life or something. Maybe we were. I don't know, but I just hope that I was the male. And anyways, but so, but I think that what we do is we kind of go through this dark phase of like trying not to think about it too much and not trying to just just dish something out. So we kind of sit back and wait till we feel something. And I notice it's around the same time that he's like, "Hey man, I'm gonna send you some stuff. I came up with some riffs. Here we are 3 years later." And I'm like, "Oh, that's cool because I was just thinking about these cool melodies the other day and I just wrote some lyrics the other day. Oh, wow, maybe it'll fit." And that's what happens is that we wait and just patient. We're kind of like an attack squad. We wait till the time is right, and then we're going to come in and just tear you up. Yeah. So it's a strategy. In other words, strike at the right time.
So,
And then go
so
ahead.
are you saying that Vampira was 9 years ago?
It was.
Was it that long ago? Because I remember when you came to Fort Worth and did that show with Aska, and that was like a big. I mean, that was like heavy metal heaven right there. I mean,
Oh
Helstar
yeah.
and Aska on the same stage, and but that was the Vampire kind of like the album release party for this part of Texas. But
Right.
gosh, I can't believe it was 9 years ago.
I
And
can't either.
have you done anything else sort of in the interim on that night? I know you've done
Well, yeah. So it wasn't completely 9 years of us not doing nothing. So this has already been 5 years ago. I don't even know anymore now. I'm losing track of time. But for me, there is no such thing as time, and time is endless, you know. So, but we did release the single "Black Wings of Solitude." You did the
Right.
artwork for that, you know.
Correct.
So it was our way to start getting back into putting out new music. And then shortly after that, we released the EP Clad in Black. So there wasn't really 9 years of us not putting out anything. And then there was two more new songs on Clad in Black. So now here we are, maybe 6 years into the game, maybe almost even seven now. And so it's like, okay, so what we thought in the beginning was Black Wings and Across the Raging Sea and
After all the dead, the
yeah, and
Womanizer cover.
Dark Incarnation. As far as the original Hellstar songs, Dark
Oh,
Incarnation. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
we figured, well, that's three songs for the full length album already, so we're ahead of the game. But then when it came time to really write the new record, Larry called me and he said, I don't know, man. I feel like we're cheating the fans this way. I think we really need to write 10 more new songs instead of just throwing these three back. And he goes, and then for Black Wings, that'll be the third time, you know? So it's kind of like, you couldn't come up with something. So I agreed. I said, okay, well now that see, now here we are in 7 years, then you're like, well, we're not going to write 10 songs in a month, you know? So there went another year process of starting to write what's the Devil's Masquerade. And then Andrew had almost half of it, you know, to throw into the mix. And then when he left, then there we were like, well, we've got these. So now what? And that's when me and Larry went to town. And Garrick actually wrote a killer song on this record, you know. So that's what was part of it. The other part of it is, so now here we are in 8 years past Vampiro. Uh, Massacre was going through some weird problems. They didn't even know if they were going to exist anymore. And if they weren't going to exist, what are they called? Shoot. Most of the people that were part of Nuclear Blast, they started another label, and then they changed the name to that. I want to say Spitfire or something like that. Anyways, they were interested in taking us, but Thomas just said to give him time, and he wanted to work it out, and he was very grateful that some of the bands stayed loyal, which we were one of them in the Rods, and so we had to let them work out their problem. He finally got what he wanted, and we got with a great he got with a great partnership distribution. They're based out of Poland, and he finally got the new deal together. There goes another year and a half. So Massacre has had the record. So here it got released in September. They've had it for 2 years of before that September.
Wow.
Done. Right. So you see, so that's what took 9 years. And a lot of people don't understand that. So it's a lot like we sat around for 9 years smoking dope or, or yeah, I know, like,
Drinking
well,
blood.
yeah, we're so good. Let's make them wait a decade for a new record, you know? So no, it wasn't one of those. It was just, there was some political problems with the label. There was the no, we need to deliver 10 new songs, not, three and have three that already been released. And then one member leaving and then leaving us with writing three-quarters of the record again, all over again. So that was the whole reason.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Now, going forward, I know it's definitely way too early to talk about this, but with a new release, a new record, you know, do you think we'll have to wait that long?
Oh no. No, because like I said, me and Larry primarily want to be the main writers, but the new guitar player is so good and he's got some good ideas that we're willing to listen. We're not going to be like, "Oh, we're going to be the only ones writing." And it has nothing to do with, oh, because we want all the publishing money. It has nothing to do with that. It's just that the chemistry works better, and we look how in when Andrew left, I'm trying to remember if it was like the August of 2 years ago or whatever. By the end of the year, Well, I'd say even before even the holidays. Larry and I had all the songs already written. That's how quick it went. But it wasn't just spitting stupid stuff out. It was, still putting a lot of time and effort into the songs, but they just came quicker magically that way because we, like, again, we think a lot alike. We do. So it just made it easier that way. But and also when we started the new, except for the exception of the Garrick song, when whatever guitar players were trying out, when they were trying out for the band, they went about it two different ways. Like, I want to send you my, me playing Baptized in Blood. I said, well, pick the hardest songs, that's for sure. And I want you to hear my solos, and then I want you to hear my ideas. And that's when I would stop them and say, don't worry about the ideas. I said, because on this record for sure, we're writing everything. If you get the gig, you'll come in and do all your solos. That's pretty much it, but and then we'll talk about things in the future. Oh, okay. So yeah, don't worry about sending us ideas. We don't want any ideas right now. And so it might have come across a little like, God, Hitler. But no, it's just the fact that we already had the ball rolling in a certain chemistry. And we just told every guitar player that, I'm sure you got great ideas, but for the most part, we're writing this whole record right now.
Yeah,
Cool.
you wouldn't call them if they didn't have good ideas and weren't able to play the songs. But
Yeah,
Sounds
you know,
so
great.
yeah.
so I'm I have to fanboy you just a little bit. I've known you what, almost 30 years
Well, let's see,
since
since the
the mid
Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. Remember we were
yeah.
playing cards, doing blow, and then we heard this. People
That's
said, what
right.
the hell's that? I said, I don't know, John. I think we need to get the hell out of here. And
I
sure
think we
enough,
need to get out
all
of
our
here.
comrades got bombed.
But I can honestly say, and this is not just because you're in front of us and we're friends, but I think Helstar continues to, not that they were ever bad, but I think that each album just gets better and better and better. And I think that that's a real rarity because we always talk about, well, they had their load and reload era of records, but I'm looking back at the entire catalog and I'm thinking, I mean, I guess maybe Multiples in Black was a little bit not the strongest Hellstar record, but for the most part, I think I think it started with Wages or Sins of the Past, and then Glory of Chaos.
Oh yeah,
That
King
Right.
of
thing
Hell,
still
all that stuff.
shreds.
Right? Yeah.
Relentless.
And
You
so,
know,
what do you? I mean, how do you? Once again, I don't know if that's just a rhetorical comment because I just think that in the day where everyone kind of gets lazy and just puts something out because people want to hear a Hellstar record, you guys continue to just absolutely beat posers down with a vengeance, and then drink
well,
their blood, and
yeah,
then go on to the next one.
we
What's
always
that?
aim for going over the top on the,
Yeah.
when we're going to do another record. Just like I said, that's why we go into that mode of darkness, and sit and really think about what we just did. So like the one after this, we're gonna, probably when it comes time to start considering about, we need to start writing a new record. I'm probably gonna listen to all of Devil's Masquerade maybe 3, 4 times. Then I'm gonna go into, might even be 6 months of darkness before I even start thinking about writing something and go like, let it sink in, let it sink. And then sometimes things just pop up. I know this is going to sound weird, but there are several songs that I have written. It might be the vampire thing. And this is the honest to God's truth. I have written in a dream. So the minute I wake up, I'm like, oh shit, where's my phone? And because that melody, I don't want to lose it. But in my dream, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And then all of a sudden I start coming up with this idea, these lyrics, and then I immediately wake up and then I record it on the voice memo so I don't forget,
Can
and
you point to any specific songs you're referring to with that?
that I wrote in a dream.
Yeah.
Actually, the one that I was a um it's on the new album, the second song. Uh, uh, I can't even remember the titles now.
Stygian
Uh,
Miracles?
yeah, Stygian Miracles, right? Yes,
Stygian, yeah.
yes, Stygian Miracles. That was written, and some of it was written. Well, the beginning part of it, or the what launched it, was written in a dream. But I'll tell you why. It's probably because it was the last episode of it. That song is based on a series. It's really cool, and it's called Midnight Mass, and
Hmm.
it's a vampire themed Netflix series, but it's the most bizarre, creepiest vampire story I have ever heard because it's the Catholic priest who is the the ringleader, and they don't. And this little town in New York on a little island, they don't know it, and yet people are. You got to watch the series. I don't want to tell you about it, but that series just blew my mind. And that night I went to bed, and I guess that's probably why. I have no. That's maybe I thought about it too much.
Hmm. So does touring and playing live, does that help the writing process at all, or are you just so engaged in the newer songs and the songs that you have in your set list?
Yeah, no, touring really doesn't. I know some bands when they're on tour, they write their records, or they write songs. We've never done that. I don't think I ever have. I don't know if Larry's ever been on, backstage warming up and then going, hey, check out this riff right here. Oh, I better not forget that. It's rare because I think for the most part, especially with Larry and Alon, and pretty much all the guitar players I've ever had. I mean, before we go on, dude, they're warming up for an hour, so they take their shit serious. And then usually somewhere about 30 minutes before the show starts, I start doing my little blah, blah, dee, 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 dee. I start doing my Engelbert Humperdinck or whatever warms me up, So I sing some Beatles stuff and just stuff to just kind of mildly get the vocal cords awake while I'm having my little glass of champagne with a little bit of blood in it. And then then so I think we worry more about what we're gonna do that night on that stage and how much damage we're gonna do. So we're concentrating more on each live show every night.
Now, I have to ask about Glory of Chaos. It's just so relentless and brutal and just nonstop. Was this a conscious decision or more of like a natural evolution for that record and sound?
Well, no, what really happened was a lot of it, like a few, maybe three, four songs. I'm trying to think. What they were is when Larry and Rob Trevino came out of retirement, they started a band called Eternity Black, and they did not want to be in the shadows of Helstar. They wanted to be completely different, and so that's why they went more for a thrashier, heavier sound. And then the singer they had didn't had no he had no range whatsoever. But they didn't want a singer like that. They wanted someone that was a little bit cleaner Phil Anselmo, but maybe had a little bit of clean voice as well. And that's what Eternity Black sounds like. And they got out and did some shows. As a matter of fact, I took them to play with Vicious Rumors for a couple of shows when I was in Vicious Rumors. And so we became family again once they got out and started playing again out of retirement. And but they brought those songs. I just rewrote the words and the melodies and made them, Hellstar songs. And that's pretty much what happened. Like Pandemonium is an ex Eternity Black song, and that's like our biggest hit off the album. And I'm thinking of the other ones, but there were several of them that we took, that I took and just rewrote the lyrics and the melodies.
Summer of Hate sounds really thrashy.
Oh yeah,
And
that's a
and
great one.
I remember, and I don't know if you were you there that night at what was that? The Forget About It on Jones Road when Eternity Black, I think headlined, or
Yeah,
or was that? Gosh, there's just so many shows in so many years, but
yeah,
I do remember seeing them and being a little surprised that they were, like you mentioned, they were more thrash and
yeah.
more heavy. They weren't like Hellstar at all. So mission accomplished as far as that goes. But
Yes.
I like the fact that they dragged some of that writing to that record because I love Glory of Chaos. I think it turned the corner for you guys and have now followed that momentum up
Well,
into
what
Devil's
it
Masquerade.
did is it broke us away from just being a power metal band, or you know what I mean? Because now people don't know what to call it, so they go power metal thrash band. I guess that's a new, a new genre.
Yeah.
And the other good thing about Glory is that if we got offered a gig with Exodus or, Testament, we could just do all those songs and we'd fit right in, So we're kind of a chameleon now, And then, of course, Alma Black just completely shocked the whole world when I did that. And then because, that is pretty much almost black metal, And so a lot of people were shocked. They were like, and they were like, "Did y'all get a guest singer?" And he goes, "No, that's fucking James." "No way." He goes, "That's James." What? And they were like, "They'll never play that live." We opened with it in a couple of shows. As a matter of fact, at one of the biggest festivals in Eindhoven, Netherlands, it's called the Christmas Metal Fest. They have it every year, and we opened with Alma Negra. So because it's just I've always known that I've always been a black metal fan. I've always loved Danny Filth, and Dumu and stuff like that. So Danny's been one of my kind of an idol for a long time, and I don't ask me why. I guess because it broke the monotony of all the Jeff Tate Canary singers, all the Bruce Dickens wannabes, and you can only handle so much of that. Not that I'm putting down that stuff, but I mean, I can only, especially when it comes to the Jeff Tate clones, I can only handle so much of that. I'm like, okay, where's my BB gun? Where's that canary at? Where are you hiding that canary? So, so
So speaking of that style, I'm I was digging through a box of tapes the other day and I found, was it Malachi's Rain?
hmm
Was that was one of your projects, right? And you were
Yep.
completely experimenting off the reservation with black
Yep.
metal and in kind of like a darker approach to things. And that, I think there's
Yes.
what, three songs?
Four. And I wish I
Four.
had a copy of it because it was a
Well, I
project
know a
that
guy that
Oh
has a
yeah,
copy, so
yeah.
I'll
It was
put that in the
a
mail to you.
project that Jack scored for me. It was some guys. They were called Malachi Rain, and they lived around Jack Frost's area, and they asked. They said, "Would you think James would?" Because Jack said, "Well, because I started incorporate once I started incorporating." The very first time I started incorporating the black metal vocals really goes back as far as Destiny's End on The Watcher.
Right.
You know, it's in the background, So little by little, I started going, I'm gonna get throw a little Danny in there. I don't care what they say. But no, they loved it. And then once I did that, then it was over because then I think every project or every album I did, uh, those those vocals got thrown in now, because it became also now another trademark of Rivera. Like, okay, he's Halford, he's Dickinson, he's Dio, he's a little bit of Klaus, and now he's Filth. What the hell, And now he's filthy, Yeah. So it kind of, it's on the Distant Thunder record, it's on the Vicious Rumors record. If you listen to the very last song, I really go off there. It's that Oceans of Rage,
Hmm.
and it's on Seven Witches records. It isn't on Passage for some weird reason, but on Year of the Witch, there's some of that stuff in the background. And then of course the Helstar records started getting it too, But Larry and them were impressed. They were like, "Wow, so you didn't stay in a bubble." Like, no, I've been experiencing, it's a lot because we went separate ways for almost 15 years. They were thinking like, I wonder if he's still stuck in, and then of course when they started hearing the records, they're like, "No, I don't think so." I think he's evolving and he's evolving really, really big now, So I think a lot of the diehard fans were surprised. There was a couple of people that were a little butthurt when, I started doing that, and especially when the Glory came out. But those are those people that are stuck in the bubble that, to them, peace of mind is the only thing that still rules the world. I'm like, all right,
Yeah,
sorry I
yeah.
hurt your feelings.
Well, I feel like that's the appeal to the band for me, like the dynamics. And I feel like it's almost like with each record, it's a whole different experience. It's not, you guys aren't like AC/DC, where every
Oh
single
no.
song sounds the same. There's so many dynamics with you guys, and an album that I really love, and one of the most iconic records from the band Nosferatu, '89. This record really does stand out to me. I'd love if you can kind of dive into and go back to that writing and recording process. How do you reflect on that generally?
Well, shoot, that was I think it was the album that, well, we all put a lot of work into it, especially Larry. But I think it was the record that actually really changed my life. And then that's when all the blackness settled in. Because what happened to me is I just took it way serious. And I got so it's album that I did the most studying for. Let's put it that way. And the more I studied, the more I started feeling like I want to be a vampire, damn it. So
What were you
yeah,
studying specifically?
just every book you can think of, just reading books. I read Bram Stoker's the Dracula at least 5 times, all the way through. You know, and back then, see, I used to take the bus to work, so I had plenty of time to read. I watched movies left and right. Just every little thing that I can think of that was related to vampires, or Dracula and everything like that. And I think by the time we started to get ready to record, uh, my whole demeanor had changed, and anything that had color, as far as my clothes, they all got thrown to the Salvation Army, and everything became black. And then stuff that was in my apartment that had color, it's out. Mom, you want this? I don't want it anymore. It's gonna be black. And so and then I decorated everything with bats, and the whole thing just blew out of proportion. But I couldn't help it. I was just so drawn in, that then this is going to really blow your mind. I even looked into getting some African fruit bats, and so, but and
No
I'll tell you that
Helstars for
a little
you.
bit more. But yeah, as far as writing it and the reflection, reflecting back to that record, no, it was the record that I did the most lyrical studying, and that's why the lyrics are really, really strong on this. And I took it as I'm writing a movie. This is our own version of a Dracula movie.
Well, speaking of movies, what do you think of the more recent rendition of Nosferatu with Johnny Depp's daughter? And do
Oh,
you think do you think that harkens back to your idea back when you were doing that record?
kind of. I wasn't 100% blown away with it, to be honest. I don't know why. I think maybe because it really reflected more on the romantic side of things, is where I think that's maybe where I was a little disappointed. But I mean, I loved it still. I mean, what I liked about it is it was stuck to the book a lot with the rats and everything like that, and the ship and everything. But they changed it, and instead this ship went to Germany. It didn't go to England,
Yeah.
so that was kind of cool.
Do you have a
Yeah, I
favorite?
thought I think about things that I've like sins of the past. I think about things that have already transpired, like the album Nosferatu, and the whole time that I'm sitting in the theater with the family, I'm thinking baptized in blood and Harker's tale,
Yeah.
and that's the way my mind works. And
Same.
then I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
thinking,
and here's the thing is that I keep, I jump on my public. I go, man, there's so many movies that have come out. Why haven't you got us a soundtrack? I mean, dude, we're the perfect candidates for this. We should have did that whole soundtrack for that movie, you
well,
know?
and it was so quiet and so reverent. I thought, gosh,
Yeah,
it needs. There are some parts that really could have. I don't know about heavy metal or whatever, but anyway, maybe we need to investigate doing a heavy metal version of Nosferatu.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
isn't the original movie like free range to the public? Isn't there no
Is it
like copyright on that anymore? I'm
on
not
you
sure
talk
the
about the original, the
specifics. The
black and white
original black and
silent
white,
movie?
exactly.
Yeah,
That's from
this
19 oh whatever.
I don't
right.
know.
Because
I'll
that'd
have to
be
look
so
into that.
sick. You totally imagine that, like just writing the whole score to that
Oh man, that would be killer, you know? Yeah.
because it's a silent film,
It's
you
a
know.
silent film, so yeah, I need something in the background, you know?
Interesting. That would be a killer
Just
show.
planting some seeds
Oh,
here, you
yeah.
know. Oh, you can do
Mm.
that live with it projected. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would be
yeah.
killer.
Well, do you have, out of curiosity, do you have a favorite vampire movie?
A favorite?
Yes.
Oh man. Yeesh, that's a tough one. I will say this though. Uh, when it comes to vampires, Dracula, however you want to slice it and dice it, uh, nothing, nothing beats the Hammer film, Christopher Lee versions. That's my favorites. You know, so anything he did, well, yeah, those are my favorite because that's when Dracula really became the Dracula that I think that the whole goth world has fallen in love with too. Because prior to that, with the Bela Lugosi thing, it was still more about a romantic, good-looking guy. You know, he almost looked like a gangster kind of in a way with a cape. You know, I mean, he kind of had that Clark Gable thing going on. You know, with Christopher Lee, he actually brought out the Satanism of Dracula, which I think a lot of people don't realize that because the Dracula is half romance and half of it is about the undead and about this yeah, evil being that sucks blood from people, but they don't realize what they don't really realize he is the devil's servant. And you know, so if in those movies you'll hear that him being he'll be that's what they'll call him, you know. Yeah. So that's what I liked about him. And of course, he was the first to bring out the red inside the cape. That I mean, dude, when you think about that's the Dracula and the goth scene and everybody that I think he's the one that really brought that to life. And
Yeah.
I liked it that he never really said much. He just looked at you, you know, and he pointed. And he always had that red in his eyes. And I love that part in that movie. Dracula has risen from the grave, and he hardly ever said a word. And then he's taken that girl to his castle, and then that guy beats him there, and he puts the cross on his door so he can't go in. Then he drops her. And then the only thing he says in the whole movie, "Get that thing out of my sight." And then she threw it's so big and she's barefooted and she's hot. She's got a see-through nightgown and then she tosses it over this thing and it lands straight up. Ironically, so they get in her hero comes, they get into a fight, he tosses him over and then he lands on it right through his heart, you know, and then that priest is starting to pray and the movie ends, you know.
You're making me want to rewatch it now. It's
Yeah, you got to
yeah,
go watch it, dude. It's awesome, man.
yeah.
Mainly for
Just
the girl in the nightgown. No, but I'm just kidding. But
That wasn't. I was going to say that wasn't Ingrid Pitt. She was in another one.
oh yeah,
But that would be
yeah.
a reason to
And
watch a
I
Hammer
love the way
film.
that they had those vampire ladies back then. They were so elegant. You know what I mean? It was a little sexy, but they were more elegant. You know, I liked it. It was really they had some good stuff going on back then. And Peter Cushing always just played a great Van Helsing.
Yeah.
very much so. Now we're kind of talking about some of the past here with past records and stuff. You guys have been on a bunch of labels. I'd love to just like get some insight on how you guys got signed to Combat back in the day for Burning Star.
Oh yeah, well, what happened is you remember that was back in the trading days. Um, we we did our demo. We got, we never got hired to play the club circuits to do covers because, we'd go into the clubs and they'd be like, you got to show them your set list and what do you play? And they were like, Run to the Hills, Blackout, Falling Off the Edge of the World. What is all this stuff? And I'm it's like, well, it's Black Sabbath, Dio, and Scorpions, Judas Priest. Oh, well, back then in the club scene, you had to play like Lover Boy and Foreigner and, dance stuff. So we decided to write our own stuff, and then we did that demo, and that demo ended up getting traded through God knows how many hands, and it ended up in the UK and became the number one demo in a magazine called Metal Forces back then, when the whole metal thing was blowing up. It was number one for like 2 or 3 months, and this guy happened to be in the UK at the time. His father is the German chancellor. I think, and he lived in the UK, but then the guy was originally from New York, so he was visiting, and he brought that tape back, and then he took it to. At that point, I guess that's when all the little independent labels were getting smart and going, "Hey, I think there's going to be a new scene going." And so Combat, Megaforce, all those labels started, developing ideas to become a label. And Combat was getting established, and he took that demo to them and he said, "Dude, you got to listen to this stuff." And they was like, "Wow, where are these guys from in Europe?" And he goes, "You ain't gonna believe this." "What?" "They're from fucking Texas, man." "What?" "Yeah, yeah, they're from Houston." He has a real thick New York accent. "Motherfuckers are from Texas." "Yeah, these fuckers ride horses, Yeah. So, but anyways, he says, "Do you know how to get a hold of them?" He was like, "I'll find out." And so that's what happened. And somewhere through the grapevine, well, the address and the phone number was there, and then they called, uh, and that's what happened. And then they said that they wanted to offer us a record deal. And we're like, "Well, what do we know about that?" I mean, I don't know nothing about that. So things kind of started off for us in a bad way because we didn't know a lot about the music business. We were just a bunch of kids from the audio. And, at that point, the most we ever did was maybe a couple of backyard parties and a couple of high school talent shows. And because most of the guys were still in high school at the time. Um, a couple of battle of the bands, but we didn't know anything about the music business. I mean, so I worked for a law firm at the time, and the law firm I worked for is a defense law firm for major industrial stuff. It had nothing to do with music business, but my boss and his partner, they tried their best to kind of understand it and kind of let them handle it, and it kind of backfired on us. When we should have got a real music lawyer, and but we didn't know about that stuff. So that's how that happened. And the next thing you know, we got an album out that's blowing up all over the world, and, and then, like, now what do we do? So yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah, and did the label pair you up with Megadeth for that?
Actually, by the second record, on Combat Again, then I realized we needed real management. And that's when I hooked up with Starstruck Productions. And his name is Mike Faley, who is now still the vice president at Metal Blade Records. And they were from Buffalo. They handled Talus, Billy Sheehan. And that's what ended up happening is we ended up with Starstruck Management. And then he got us he got us quite a bit of shit. Got us the Megadeth tour, got us the Anthrax tour. He did a lot of good stuff.
How do you reflect on that tour specifically? I know you started working with Randy Burns too around this
Yeah.
time as well, who famously worked on a lot of Megadeth as well.
Oh man, you talking about the record or the tour?
The tour, the tour.
Oh, the tour
It's
was,
just
I
it
mean,
is a coincidence that Randy Burns also worked a lot
yeah.
with Megadeth. I was wondering if there's maybe a correlation there at all.
No, not at all. No, not really. I mean, we hit it off with the guys right away, and it was our first tour to get out of Texas. Yeah, it was our first tour to get out of Texas, and
It's your first
where
U.S.
it was
tour.
mostly in the Midwest and the East Coast, though.
Yeah,
But it was,
cool.
yeah, it was an exciting time. It was winter time. I'll never forget it. And we had two vans, and they had a little RV. And so, but I remember, I'm trying to think where the tour started in Madison, Wisconsin, of all places. And then we did Milwaukee, then Cleveland, and then it went to the East Coast and stuff. And then we only got that part of it. We were hoping that we could have got the Texas part, which I don't understand that, but we got the whole Anthrax tour in Texas, so yeah, it made up for it.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast, man. We did
Oh,
some
you're welcome, man.
some, technical things in the beginning, but I'm glad it happened. We did it. James, thank you so much for being
Oh,
on the
you guys are
show.
welcome,
I
man.
kind of want to give you the floor right now. Like what's the general future of Helstar look like right now?
Well, let's see. For Helstar in general, um, the next thing we have on the plate is Hell's Heroes, of course. That's in March. And then I'm working on some East Coast dates, but we already have another mini tour lined up in Europe for next September, end of August, next September. So, and then in between, we're going to start piddling around with some ideas. Like I told Larry, I said, it usually takes about 6 months to a year before we even start thinking about writing new material. But we know now that it's not going to take us a year to write the material. That's the difference. So even if we didn't start writing something until um, this September, coming up, or even if we start midsummer, we would have the record done by the end of the year. And then we could probably honestly say we'll have a release now for 2028 and not wait 9 years. It'll be 2 years, which is, used to be every year, but I think nowadays for most bands, it's kind of slowing down to like every 2 years now, and that's about average. Because your album's lifespan, like when an album, I compare it to a baby. When the baby's born, the first 3 months of it is the most exciting part. Then about 6 months later, it's still got a little bit of excitement, but it's not getting as many gifts from grandma and grandpa no more. Like, you're grown up to be an ugly kid. You were cute when you were little, So then about a
Relatable.
year later, that was a great album. I wonder when they're going to put out another one. It's already kind of almost forgotten. So by that point, then you start the hype of putting out things through social media or whatever, or the label. Everybody get prepared. Hellstar's writing a new record. It's coming out next year. And then you kind of start building your momentum again. And, oh, I can't wait to hear that one now. So, I would say safely we will have a new album by 2028 for sure.
Very exciting. And what's the best way for people to stay updated and in touch with the band?
To go to the Facebook page and, go to my page and go to Larry's page because we're always posting stuff left and right, but yeah, that's basically the best way. Mikey's working on getting the website back up so we can get a merch store going, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, other than that, we're always just trying to do what we can to keep promoting ourselves.
Awesome. Well, Carcass, thank you for joining me. And of course, James
Yeah,
Rivera,
hey,
Hey,
Helstar.
Juanito.
yeah.
Great group we got here. And
Yeah,
I'm glad we got to do this. Awesome to have you on the podcast. And thank you
yeah,
again.
dude. Thank you. Yeah, that's amazing,
Uh,
man.
I'm Brandon Battick, and this has been Disturbing the Priest.
Disturbing the priest.